Lately, there's been a lot of conversations about the 2020 draft and the top prospects like Anthony Edwards and Lamelo Ball, but there hasn't been much conversation about the top prospects in high school that could be top selections in next year's draft. In this video, we're going to be looking into the 2021 draft and who could be potentially taken with the #1 pick. So if you guys like my content, make sure you like and subscribe. Let's try to go insane and get 9,999 likes on today's video, and let's hop into it. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. The upcoming draft is very different than 2021. The top of this year's draft is flooded with point guards, while next year it's pretty well-rounded positionally, and if it's weak in any spot, it's the point guard position. Now, for what teams are going to be having top picks, that's very unclear. It should be no surprise if teams like the Hornets, Pistons, and Wizards are down there, but we've seen a lot of teams have impressive year-over-year progress recently. So for this video, we are focusing on the players rather than what teams are going to be taking them. The battle for the #1 pick is going to be exciting. Right now, I would say the slight frontrunner appears to be, and deservingly so, future Oklahoma State point guard Cade Cunningham. Just looking at it on paper, you see why he's legitimately in the conversation. He's a 6'7" point guard with almost a 7-foot wingspan. He won MVP of the EYBL, averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. He's the face of one of the best teams in high school basketball and is currently ranked as the 3rd overall player in the country according to ESPN. That should be enough to get you excited about his NBA future, but his tape is really where you see that injuries are most likely the only thing that is going to stop him from hearing his name called in the first 30 minutes of the draft. He has a legitimate guard skill set. He has a handle that slows the game down for him. His court vision and playmaking come off as second nature. So really, the fact that he is 6'7" is truly just a bonus. Now, he's definitely not the best leaper in this draft, but as you should know, while it does matter to an extent, leaping ability more correlates with YouTube highlight views rather than actual success on the court. Now, with that said, if you decide to meet him at the rim, he can still throw it down or at the least finish through contact. While it's at the high school level, his game looks effortless, like everything around him is moving in slow motion. It's really hard to find a glaring hole in his game. He clearly has the size as a 6'7" point guard. He wants to get his teammates involved and does that effectively. He can score with the best of them and guard the 1 through the 3. If you're nitpicking, he hasn't been the most consistent three-point shooter. He shot a decent 35% from 3 in the EYBL, but made just 1 of his 14 attempts in the U19 World Cup. But there's nothing wrong mechanically like Lonzo Ball's dealt with. There doesn't seem to be a confidence issue from there like we see with Ben Simmons. By the time the draft comes around, I don't really see that being much of a concern. But speaking of Ben Simmons, who also attended Montverde Academy, I think he's actually a pretty solid comparison. Cade is obviously smaller, but is much more well-rounded as a scorer. I'm really excited to see what he can do as the #1 guy at Oklahoma State next season. Next, we've got to talk about Jalen Green, who when it's all said and done, is another guy that's going to have a real shot at #1. He's a 6'6" shooting guard, currently ranked as the top high school player in the country. He's yet to make his college decision, but the clear frontrunner is the Auburn Tigers, which is exciting. Auburn's basketball program has gained a lot of traction lately, and I would be excited to see what he could do there. Now, I know I just criticized the unnecessary prospect praise for how much they can jump off the ground, but that is clearly Green's biggest draw and why he's one of the biggest names in the basketball social media world. He's clearly incredible above the rim, but that's not what's going to put him in the conversation for the top pick. He's a lethal first step with effective change of speed and direction. He has a lot of creativity for getting his shots up, whether that's at the rim or hitting a step back jumper. The one thing that does get me concerned for Green is perimeter shooting. He's had no problem scoring the ball. He averaged 33 points as a junior, then 19 a game in the EYBL, but shot 21% from 3 in the U19 World Cup and less than 30% from 3 in the EYBL. He's got a really unique shot form with a pretty low release point, which is rightfully a concern going forward. Now, this is not going to stop him from being taken early in this draft with this much talent. It's hard to find the right comparison for him. Most of the ones out there are pretty ridiculous, but I really like him as a player. He's probably the funnest player in this class to watch, but as of right now, I do have to give the slight edge to Cunningham, but obviously, who holds these picks is going to affect the order in which they come off the board. I would say the last of the frontrunners for number 1 is 7-foot center Evan Mobley. Mobley is going to be going to USC, which has proven this season to have the platform for a big man to become a top pick in the draft with Onyeka Okongwu. Mobley is currently ranked as the 2nd player in the country. His size is clearly what jumps off the paper, standing at 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan. For his size, he has excellent coordination and a solid shooting stroke that could allow him to potentially play the 4. He's not afraid to have the ball in his hands on the perimeter, which gives his game a lot of growth. On the defensive end, the length and the shot blocking instincts are there. The major concern for him right now is his frame. As we mentioned, he's 7 foot but weighs just 200 pounds. If he expects to play the center position, he has a long way to go on filling out his frame, but it's also a great sign when the biggest concern is related to his weight. But I don't think he is to put too much on. I could see him developing into a stretch 4 similar to Chris Bosh. He also reminds me a lot of Bol when he was at the same point in his career. Hopefully, injuries don't affect Mobley's draft stock as it did for Bol. There's been a lot of consistent praise for Mobley from people that have had the pleasure of coaching him, such as the founder of the Compton Magic, Edo Emma, who said he's a generational talent. He's a positionless 7-footer who can really be a marquee guy in the NBA someday. His high school coach at Rancho Christian really believes in Mobley's potential, as he said he's got a little bit of Greek freak and Kevin Durant all in one. That is some high praise. Out of the prospects we've mentioned so far, I think Mobley is going to have the most interesting development to track. As of right now, these 3 sit atop the others in terms of the number 1 pick, but every year we see players go up and down the board, and it's going to be no different next season. There's a lot of guys in the mix. There's Jonathan Kuminga, who's currently slated to go to the 2022 draft, but could potentially be reclassifying. If he does go that route, he will undoubtedly be in the conversation. He's currently the number 1 ranked junior in the country. He's 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. He has the size to be a power forward, but is a true small forward. Most of his career in the recruiting spotlight, he was very raw. The athleticism was there, the size was there, and he flashed a lot of potential, but he's really started to put everything together. He's got a well-rounded game. He's got no problem putting the ball in the basket. He's a good defender and a pretty solid playmaker for his position. He hasn't been the most efficient shooter, but he shoots from the perimeter at a very high volume, so that's obviously something he wants to be a part of his game going forward. There's BJ Boston, who could be the next Kentucky wing to go at the top of the draft. He has the size and length at 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan. He was one of the top scorers in the EYBL, averaging 23 points a game. He has an amazing ability to get to the rim and has a lot of ways to finish once he's there. He's got quick feet on the defensive end, can guard multiple positions, and is effective at forcing turnovers. What held him back from being in the top 3 is consistency as a shooter. This is similar to Jalen Green, but Green has a lot more tools in his bag for creating his own shot outside. But with Boston's physical profile, a surprising shooting at Kentucky, which is in the cards as his mechanics are very smooth, would definitely put him in the conversation. Now, I feel like I've said the one problem is his shooting consistency like 9 times in this video, and well, I kind of have to. This draft has a lot of wings and a lot of pretty similar ones. It's not very common to find high school prospects that are 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan and are shooting 40% from 3. You just don't see that often. In fact, almost no one did that in the EYBL. But we do have to keep saying it because that's ultimately what's going to separate these prospects from each other. Whether it's Cunningham, Boston, or Green, with how the league is today, if they all pan out to be the effective slashers and defenders that we are projecting as of now, it's most likely going to be the player that shows the most promise as a shooter that hears his name first. Now, I mean promise quite literally. Lamelo Ball and Anthony Edwards aren't lighting it up from 3, but that's not slowing them down from arguably being the top 2 prospects in the upcoming draft. It's not the end-all and be-all. Evaluating these guys at the high school level, it's hard to truly know what their strengths and weaknesses are going to be. Right now, they can get away with a lot just from their size and athleticism. But getting back to some more potential top picks, you've got Jaylen Johnson. Again, another big 6'8" wing, which is clearly the positional strength of this draft. His shooting is slightly concerning as he typically releases on the way down, and defenses tend to sag off outside. But there's no questions going at the basket, and has a very high IQ game for someone at this stage of their career. He's a great decision maker in transition and overall. He's unselfish and flat out a great passer, consistently making cross-court and lead passes. He was 8th in assists in the EYBL with 5.8 a game, which is great given He plays the small forward spot. His ability as a point forward could lead to a board rising season for one of the biggest programs in college basketball, Duke. There's a lot more names in the mix. We couldn't get to them all today, but I'm sure we will get to them more in depth in the future, such as Greg Brown, Terrence Clark, Zaire Williams, Scotty Barnes, and Usman Garuba. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, business owner, or just want a platform to share your interests in a professional manner, Squarespace has all the tools for you to do that in a timely fashion. Whether you want to start your own sports blog or start selling clothing, there's no other place to look. They support all types of content, including pages, galleries, blogs, commerce, calendars, and more. They have in-depth analytics to help you understand how your site is performing and how to improve going forward. They have marketing tools to boost traffic, such as email campaigns, where you can create powerful email content that matches the website with your existing products, posts, and logo, so your messaging stays consistent. I've had nothing but good things to say about Squarespace. For me, it was easy to use their templates and tools to get a clean looking site. It doesn't require any coding knowledge, and you guys are just a couple clicks away. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Jimmer to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. But that's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And the shoutouts are gonna be Robert, Jaden, Gabriel, Blueberry, and Aiden. If you guys want to shout out on the next video, all you gotta do is like the video and comment liked or rep notification squad, and I'll shout 5 of you guys out. With all that being said, hope you guys have a great day, and peace.